Hey kids, welcome to my walkthrough of our story project. This is a pretty comprehensive project, and really it's our first actual creative program. I know in the last one we took some creative liberties and I didn't give you the backgrounds, you had to find your own, but this one you're creating up completely yourself. Let's look at the rubric and see what we have to do for the project, and then go ahead and build our project. In this one, to get full credit, you need to have 4 scenes. You'll get a bulk of the credit with 3, but I really encourage you to have 4, or even more. You want to have 3 different sprites, have at least 8 say or think boxes, so pretty much 2 pieces of text a scene. Animate the movement of your characters. You broadcast to change scenes in your story, have the characters turn speaking to each other, have at least 1 conversation between characters, have a title screen with your name on it, have the story initialize itself when the green flag is clicked, and the entire story plays once we click it. We are going to do what we usually do in class. I'll have a Google Doc. We'll post links to our project so you can see what other creative things your classmates have done. We'll look back to this. Let's go ahead and start making our project. Over in Scratch, the first thing I'm going to do is name this story project so I know what I am working with. And one of the first part of this project was storyboarding it out. I gave you some paper, you had to come up with an idea, and you roughed out what you thought your program should look like. I didn't do that though because I gave you guys the option to tell me what to do. If you didn't remember, what we're doing is the 4 scenes have to take place in San Francisco, Tilted Tower, the Alamo, and Vegas. I had some different characters, but I'm worried that we're going to get copyrighted by YouTube, so I'm going to work with some different things. So the characters, unfortunately, I'm just going to pick randomly from scratch instead of going out. That also means, cat, goodbye. What's my story going to be? Mine, with these 4 things, I'm going to go with 4 things about Mr. Rhodes you may or may not have known. And the character that is going to take you through this, let's upload a sprite here. The character that is going to take us through this, well, that is Mr. Adler. Mr. Adler is the shop teacher from South Park and an inspiration to me. Stop messing around, kids. He is going to be my foil to take us through our journey, and he'll talk to different characters throughout there. This doesn't make much sense, though, if you kind of just put it there. We really need to take care of our title screen here first. How do we do that? We can do it a couple different ways. Probably the easiest one is to go to Paint, and this will bring up a background here. And in this one, we can add text like, welcome to a story about Mr. Rhodes. I like how it defaulted towards purple. You may or may not like that. Kind of limited on a lot of things we can do here. Really, I just want to kind of make it pretty simple, so I'm going to go over here. And on our title screen, we'll actually have Mr. Adler there too. Oops, I clicked off the background. So this is our backdrop too. Let's add another little text part here. Let's add it over here. He is going to take you on a story of his life. Learn a little more about Mr. Rhodes through this program. I know that's jumbled. I'm going to move this over here. Let's move it over. We can make it bigger or smaller depending on how we're doing stuff here. Let's obviously get the formatting here a little better. Through this program. Isn't that nice? So we're going to learn a little something about me. And I'm going to put the text over here, kind of line it up with Mr. Adler himself. Oops, clicked off the backdrop again. Probably want to center this up here. I can do that by hitting the arrow, moving this over towards what I think is the center. Looks pretty good to me. So far, so good. Last thing we want to do is really give some instructions to our user. Click the green flag to start. And a bunch of exclamation points. And I'm going to space this a little different to start here. Once I have this highlighted, I am going to just center this a little better. That looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to make this over here and I'm going to put this in the corner. Spacing looks pretty good on that. We can get rid of backdrop 1 here. Oh, what color do we want the back to? We probably just want to make this a generic white. White is going to be hard to find here. Woo! How about we do something a little North Royalton though? Oh, we can't because we got that. How about we hurt your eyes? Nothing more painful than that. This is pretty good. The convert to bitmap here just makes it all permanent, so we can do stuff like add our background backdrop right there. Once we hit the convert to that, we can do it. If we hit convert to vector, then a vector image is a math image, and that just pretty much gives us better resolution on some stuff. We're not going to get into that right now. So far, so good. Let's go to our code here. And for our backdrop 1, we need our event, because this is where stuff is going to start. And we want to put our character in this place, or our sprite in this place right here. In this one, I am going to set this character, oops, when clicked. We're still on our backdrop. When clicked here, we want, because we're actually working with this person, same thing. When the green flag is here, we want this person to go to this position right here. So it always starts right there. Once we do that, we're going to wait, and we're going to wait for the green flag to be clicked. Once that happens, we are going to wait for, let's say, 5 seconds for the user to go once they click the green flag, and then let us switch our backdrop. And we'll switch to our first backdrop, which will be San Francisco. Go back to our code here. And Mr. Adler, we're going to wait 5 seconds. We are then going to, well, going back to our backdrop right here, by the way, when the green flag is clicked, we always want to switch to which one? Backdrop 2, because that's our first one. Going back to Mr. Adler, we're going to wait 5 seconds, and then we are going to broadcast a message. And this message will be scene, oops, spelled right, scene 1. And then when that's done, we are going to hide Mr. Adler. And then we're going to go back to our backdrop here. When we receive, because these are all costumes now, when I receive scene 1, we are going to switch to the San Francisco backdrop, or the Golden Gate Bridge. Let's go ahead and just see if our program works. Click the green flag. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there we are. And Mr. Adler is hidden. Let's go back to our green flag here and our event. what we're going to do is we want to make sure he reappears. So let's wait over here 2 seconds and let's show him appearing. Run our code here. It's not going to show up because he is hidden in there. First thing we actually want to do all the time is go to show. So show is the first thing that happens.
Let's deal with the position of Mr. Adler when he comes back. I really want the position to be over here. So I want it to go to here and then show. At this point, I'm going to say something. And what am I going to say? Well, this one, the Golden Gate Bridge, little did you know that Starfleet headquarters is located on the south side. Let's hit our flag, see if that works. There they are. We're going to take a story about the life. 2 seconds pops up. There we are. How about we make it a little timed, a little better. 1 second here. And 1 second there. Once they show. So it gives us some time to see it. At this point, I'm going to broadcast something. A new message. I'm going to call this one Spaceship.
Remember Campbell case, capitalize the first letter of the second word. And what I need to do is load up another sprite now. So I want to search for one. I'm going to type in space, see what comes up. We have our rocket ship right here. And look, the rocket ship can also change its costume. So that's going to be very helpful. Our costume comes up here. As always, when the green flag is clicked, we are going to hide this because we don't want this to happen until we get something. And nothing is going to happen with this until we receive the spaceship part right there. I want to change this costume a little here. What I want to do is rotate this a little. How do you rotate it? If you just grab this down here, you can just tilt it. So I want it to blast off. Looks pretty good to me. It's going to blast off from over here. And what I want it to do, once it receives this message, I want it to show. And there's another thing I want to do. If I look at this costume here, there's actually a bunch of them that rotate around. What I'm going to do then is I want to put a loop in here as well. When I receive spaceship, I want to repeat at least 10 times we'll start off with our looks. We're going to go to the next costume, but we just can't go next costume, repeat, next costume, repeat. What we have to do is we have to wait for just a second. This one I'm going to do 0.5 or half a second. So when this comes up to the scene, this rocket should move over like that. We do have one issue here. You can notice this one is on a little turn here, but the other ones are not. So we have one of two options here. We can either go back or we can mess with each one of these. I like to mess with each one of these. So let's go over here, rotate it. We just got to get it close in size. That's all we have to do. So we'll go there, same thing. And I'm going to repeat this with all of my different costumes. I want you to notice that I keep recentering it. That's important because this center really depends a lot, especially when we do turns and stuff. Shrink this down, come over here, rotate it. Again, we're all on a 45 because our rocket is blasting off. Oh, look how far down that is. We got to come up here, shrink this down, and put it in the center. Let's just flip through them real quick. That looks pretty good. Let's just make sure they're all in the center. Oops. Move that one without it. Center is right here. Same thing here. Select them all. Center right here. Select them all. Moving it to the center so it looks a little better. There we are. Our code now should repeat 10 times. It should just rotate right there. Let's see if that's what happens. Ooh, look at our spaceship turn. Kind of looks like a little clunker, but it's all right. Looks like the car that I drive. That's pretty good. I'm going to put this down here, and I want to make sure it starts off at this position every single time. We are going to go to here and then show. And then what I want to do is I want to glide, oops, all the way almost off screen. So right there, I want to glide over to there. And let's take 3 seconds to glide. After it's gliding, I want it to say something. Let's have it say for 2 seconds, "That is what inspired Mr. Rhodes's love for science and computer science." After that, we will hide. And let's broadcast for our third scene. So broadcast, and this one is going to be scene, spelled right though, 2. And hit OK. Let's see if this scene worked. Our fun little title screen. Here I show up. Woo, look at that rocket fly. Now what happened there is we had a couple extra repeats. Looked like 3. Let's go to 7. Really, what the best one to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just cycle through them once. Let's see if 6 looks any better. And a rocket ship flying. Looks pretty good. I think our character here, when they receive scene 2, should say, "Watch true." Well, that's true. Look at my spelling. Up here, same thing. Just getting rid of all this weird capitalization. And if you're wondering, yes, when I was in San Francisco, that is the first place I went to see. So he says, "That's true." Then let's hide Mr. Adler. So let's go down to looks and hide. But we should really give it like a second here and then hide. Once we get that, let's try switching our backgrounds a little differently. We are going to switch backdrop to our next backdrop, and we have to load that up. So let's upload the backdrop, and the next we are going to the Alamo. Third is the Alamo. And this way we broadcasted, and this aspect, we just switched the backdrop to the Alamo. We do have to hide our little ship, and we did. At this point, Mr. Adler is going to go to the side of the Alamo. Motion, go to here. Let's wait 1 second and then reappear. In this one now, I want him to say what his favorite movie is. The El Amo always reminds me of my favorite movie, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And I think 2 seconds might be too short to say this, so let's say 4. Then I want to broadcast again. We're going to go to broadcast, and we are going to do a new message, and this is going to be called song. On this one, we're going to get another new sprite to come in here now. So we're going to search for a sprite. What can we use? Let's say an animal here. Ooh, we can have a bear walk in. I like that. Let's use a bear. Big old bear. Our bear, though, we want the other way. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to flip it. And I got to do this to everything because our bear goes the other way. Our bear here is gigantic, but that's all right. Our code, as always, when we click the green flag, we want the looks to hide. When we receive song, we want to reappear, show. On this point now, what's going to happen? Well, I want my bear, same thing as the other one. We're going to do another one of these. When I receive song, I want to loop next costume and wait. So switch to next costume, wait half a second. We'll do 0.25 because there's a ton here. If we went back here, we can see we have 6. Ooh, I forgot to flip some of these. 8 costumes. Well, that is a lot. We want to repeat then 8 times. Bear is going to come out. And what's the bear going to say? Well, the bear is going to glide over to here. So we will glide to, well, first we have to set the first position. So we want to go to here, go to here, show, and then we want it to glide all the way over to here. And let's take 3 seconds to do that. Once we get over there, we are going to wait again for a second, and then we are going to say another little fact. What's ours going to say? What's going to think this time? And it goes, the stars are bright deep over the heart of Texas. If you don't get that joke, you can Google it, and I am sure it'll come up and not be funny at all.
The stars at night are big and bright.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
Once it's there, we are going to broadcast again. So broadcast over here. What are we going to broadcast? This is going to be bear message 1. We broadcast bear message 1. We want, and you can see we're starting to run out of space here. We can keep scrolling down. I like to keep mine in line of how stuff goes. When I receive bear message 1, we're going to say for 2 seconds, Well, that is a funny scene in the movie. And of course, spelling scene wrong again. All right, this is scene number 2. Let's go ahead and hit our flag here. Let's see what happens. We got a couple seconds to wait. Go to San Francisco. Starfleet headquarters loaded in South Side. Spaceship comes off. Says, that's what inspired Mr. Rhodes' love. That's true. Maybe we should give that a little more time. Pops up here. Bear walks on over. Oh, hello, Bear. Ah, that is funny. Let's wait one more second here. And then let's do another broadcast for scene 3. So broadcast now. New message. Scene 3. Oh man, kids, I cannot spell today. Scene 3. And at this point, I need to hide the bear. So when the bear receives scene 3, it's going to hide. And that is all for my bear. Back to Mr. Adler. He's going to broadcast scene 3, wait another second, and then hide. This one will do a little less, 0.5, and then hide. We got to go to our backdrop. When we receive scene 3, we're going to change something. We have to load up our scene here. So upload a new backdrop. Our third one is going to be Vegas. This one is called Backstreet Boys, but it's really Vegas. It is a Vegas show in the Backstreet Boys. So when I receive scene 3, we are going to switch the backdrop to Vegas. We're on Vegas now. Let's go back to Mr. Adler. Well, let's do this. Let's broadcast. When we switch that, let's go ahead and broadcast again. When we get to the scene, let us wait for a second, and let's broadcast start. So I'm going to broadcast a new message, and this message is going to be called Vegas Start. Going back to Mr. Adler here, moving over. When he receives Vegas Start, let's get him to go to this position right here in the middle. So we are going to go to right here, and then we have to show. And let's just take this in for just a second. And have our character say why they're in Vegas. I have never been to Vegas. But my parents did go there on their honeymoon. Once that's happened, and that's going to take longer than 2 seconds here. Let's get it at 5 seconds. Ooh, that's a lot to read. Actually, let's go 4. 5's excessive. 4 is perfect. Once that happens, we are going to broadcast yet another event. And this one is going to be Vegas 2. So Vegas Start 2. we need another character to come in. So let's load up another sprite. This one, we need something fancy. There is a dance. And what dance should we do? LB dance, 1080. Let's do D-Money here. That looks like something I would do. And D-Money is going to come out at this point. So when the green flag is clicked, we have to hide our character here. When we receive, though, Vegas Start 2, we can have this show. As always, wait just a little of a second after popping up and say, do you know how to dance? Then I'm going to broadcast Conversation Vegas because we want to have a conversation with Mr. Adler. So I'm going to go down here, new message. This is going to be Convo Vegas 1. Hit OK. Go back to Adler. When I receive, let's scroll down a little more here. When I receive Vegas Convo, I'm going to wait again for just half a second because you never overtalk people. And you are going to say, nope, my wife has been bugging me for years. Say that for 3 seconds. We are going to wait again for a second. Then we are going to hide our costume and broadcast yet another, and this is going to be a scene 4. So go back here, broadcast, new message, scene, look at that, spelled it right finally, 4. Just as a helpful hint, you can click on things to make them run so you don't have to go through the whole program. I'm going to switch it and watch my program over because that's how I like to do things. Last thing we did was broadcast scene 4. So once we broadcast scene 4 here, we want, unfortunately, this character to hide. So we'll go over here to our looks and go to hide. After we broadcast here, we also want to wait a second just so we can catch our breath. So we'll go 0.5 after that. Let's go ahead and run this whole thing, see how we're doing right before our last scene. This part is pretty good, so I'm happy. We have my talk of love of science and what got me into it. Everybody's talking much nicer. Here's a little bit about one of my favorite movies. Bear comes up close there. Broadcast to our third scene. Ooh, looks like we had some problems there in our final broadcasting. Looks like we want to hide before we do it. Let's just see how this one plays out. And they both hide. The Mr. Adler here, we needed to hide before we broadcast. We want to hide, then broadcast. Same thing down here. One scene left to go. Let's upload it. And it is Tilted Towers. Let's go back to our code here. Let's just stop. We want to go to our backdrop of this. And we want Mr. Adler to go, let's go on this side right over here. Let's go over here. Scene 4. So we need to take care of our backdrops too. So we're going to go over towards our backdrops, and we want, when we receive, and this is going to be scene 4, we want to switch the backdrop now to, this backdrop is called tilted, so we want to switch it towards tilted. We are going to, as always, we'll wait a second so we can see the scene. Let's broadcast another message just so we're all on the same page. This new message is going to be called, oops, Tilted Towers. Over here, we can go back to Mr. Adler. When we receive the Tilted Towers, we are going to go to this position, and we are going to show. So come over here and show. As always, once we get there, let's wait just half a second. And let's give our interesting fact about this. This one, as most of you kids know, I am a huge avid gamer. I have well over 600 hours streaming Fortnite. And sadly, kids, that is true. What is my username? You'll never know. But just think, next time you're scrolling through your Twitch feed, you might land on me. Once that happens, we got to bring up another character here. Let's search for a Sprite. Let's see if there's anything Fortnite-y in here. Probably nothing. We should have probably uploaded our own thing, but that's all right. Oh, you know what always bugs me are those little butterflies in there. So let's use our dragonfly in this one. Dragonfly, as each one of them, when clicked, of course, you know what we're going to do. We're going to hide it. Then when we receive, well, we got to go back to our Mr. Adler here. We are going to come down here. We're going to wait half a second. And let's broadcast a message. Message will be tilted convo. Tilted convo 1. Hit OK. Once that happens, we are going to go back to our dragonfly sprite here. When they receive tilted convo, we'll say what I just said, but first we have to make them appear. Show. We also have to get them to go to this position right there. So let's add a position in there as well. Give it a half a second because we hate when stuff runs on each other. Timing is always tough. And we want this to say just what I said. Don't I scare you sometimes into thinking I am another player? And that always happens. Drives me crazy. Say that for 3 seconds. Let's broadcast another event here. Broadcast. This is going to be Tilted Convo 2 now. Tilted Convo 2. So when Mr. Adler here receives Tilted Convo 2, gonna wait half a second and say Same thing. You ain't kidding. You ain't kidding. Looks pretty good. They kind of talk back and forth to each other. I'm going to broadcast at this point another event. And I'm going to call this end here. So let's go back here and let's do end 1. Oops, 1. When my dragonfly here receives end 1, let's hide. Same thing after this. Let's hide and broadcast. We do want one more thing here. We want to paint one more scene. Let's upload one more backdrop. That's actually going to be called That's All, folks. Instead of spelling it out, we got that right there. So in our code, we are going to go to Mr. Adler. He's going to broadcast end 1 in our backdrops. When I receive end 1, we want to switch the backdrop to That's All. And that's where we should end up. Let's go ahead and click our flag and see our program in the entirety. Welcome to a story about Mr. Rhodes. He's going to take you on a story of his life. There we go. Need a little more time there, but that's all right. Starfleet HQ is located on the south side. There's our spaceship. That's what inspired my love. You're right. That's true. Switch over to the Alamo. Reminds me of one of my favorite movies. We got a bear that creeps in here. Yes, the stars are bright. Funny seeing that movie. Again, Google it if you don't get it. We go over here to Vegas. That's where my parents went on their honeymoon. And then we have my friend in here. Oh, you know what we forgot to do? We forgot to animate our last 2 characters, I think. So we have our 600 hours. Sadly, that's true. Our dragonfly over there. We should hide both of those and switch scenes. So all I really got to do here is really just do a loop. So when I receive a tilted convo, because that's what it started this. So when I receive tilted convo 1, I want to do a loop. How many loops do I want to do? There's only 2 costumes, so any even number, we'll say 8. We are going to next costume, and then remember, you gotta wait a little bit, otherwise it just flips through it. Make it look like it's flying, so we'll go very fast. Same thing for our friend Kid here. This is when I receive. This starts with Vegas start 2, and same thing, I want to do a loop. Loop is a next costume and wait 0.5. How many times? Let's see how many costumes we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 costumes. Ooh, 8, 9, 13. Looks like we got to loop this 13 times. That's a lot. That might go on a little too long, but let's see what happens. I think our first one we should probably take just a little more time on because I can't read it. Do we have any time to wait? We are showing here, we're waiting 5 seconds. Let's wait 10. All right, click and go. This will give me some time to at least read about this stuff, see what's going on. Much better there. Things are popping up nice. Our rocket ship looks beautiful. Smooth transition in between the 2 so far, so that looks pretty good. Our bear slides up. Here's our moment of truth. Are our kids going to dance? And is it going to be dancing too much and too long? We'll find out. Comes over here. My friend should pop in. There it is. I like that. Looks pretty good to me. And we go over to Tilted. Our little quasi butterfly, not butterfly. It's moving perfect. Could probably add some time, but overall, that looks pretty good. Looking back at our rubric here, we have 4 scenes. We have at least 3 different sprites. We have more conversation than we need. We animated a movement of our characters. We used broadcast to change the scenes. Our characters did take turns speaking and didn't speak over each other. We had a couple conversations, a title screen. Everything ran when we click the green flag, and it plays all at once. Nothing else has to happen. That's all you need for this project, kids. I cannot wait to see what you create. Good job.